right, this video comes from Rose. Shout out to Rose. I appreciate you handing me this video. So I saw this trend about like the AI art Ghibli style, but I really didn't even look deep into it at all. I literally looked at it like, huh, interesting. That's kind of crazy. Copyright's gonna be wild. And then I just kept moving on with my life. But there's an awesome video called "The Art is an Insult to Studio Ghibli." Let's check it out.
It's Celestia, and I love Studio Ghibli. The movies they created defined my childhood and played a huge role in both my appreciation for art and my decision to pursue it seriously.
I would say I love Studio Ghibli as well. Spirited Away is one of my favorites, and so is Princess Mononoke. My actual first anime girl crush. I think that's why I like cat girls or wolf girls. I don't know.
And I know I'm far from the only one to feel that kind of influence and inspiration from them. The stories they tell are obviously a huge part of the reason for that, but the art style is just as significant. Miyazaki's style of both illustration and animation is almost universally recognizable, because it has this timeless charm that you can't quite put your finger on.
It's like a 90s,
and
2000s,
and whimsical, and you can't not feel like you're looking at a world a little more magical than the one that we live in. Which elements of the style in particular are responsible for this has been the subject of much debate, and I'm sure the answer is different for everyone, but the consensus agreed upon by almost every fan is that something about the art of Studio Ghibli goes beyond just being beautiful or cute or unique or charming. It makes you feel something, and that something has reached so many hearts over the years that it's become easily one of the most beloved art styles in recent history, at least in certain fandom spaces and communities. Which is why this new trend of using the most recent model of ChatGPT to generate Ghibli-style images with terrifying accuracy doesn't just make me angry, it makes me deeply and sincerely upset. And
you can use ChatGPT to make art now? Bro, I'm behind.
Conflicted, too, because for once, I don't think this is an instance of people devaluing art or artists through the use of AI, at least not intentionally. A lot of people are calling this trend a tribute to Ghibli, devotion to a style of art that they love deeply and sincerely hold dear to them. The majority of people I've seen using it, at least in my circles, are doing so out of love for art, and not a devaluation of it. I'm used to tech bros using generative AI to exploit and ultimately replace human artists, and I'm used to people not seeing how damaging all of this really is to artists and art, and using it as if it's harmless more out of ignorance than anything else. I've made more than enough videos discussing how I feel about both. But people who genuinely love art using generative AI to essentially, to them, pay tribute to it, that I've never seen. A lot of them are even against generative AI as a whole, but have so much nostalgic fondness and love for the Ghibli style that they'll make an exception to have their profile picture capture the same magic it reminds them of. Some people are obviously doing what they've always done with generative AI, just using it to churn out art for free because they don't value it as anything more than a thing to have, much less a form of expression. But not all of them are. The Ghibli style is so widely loved that the use of it via generative AI is being done out of that love, as a compliment. And that breaks my heart because it isn't one. And that's exactly what I want to talk about in today's video. It's not going to be some rehashing of the same anti-AI stances that I've explained a million times before. I'm not going into why I believe it's unethical, how it hurts artists, how flawed the mentality that it's democratizing art is, or how I believe it to be a substitute for art being deceptively marketed as a tool to make it. I've done that, you've heard it, and you can watch some of the other videos that I've made on those topics if you haven't and you want to.
Somebody send me the videos where she talks about art. If she has any videos that talk about art in the substance of humanity, right? Art, music, dance, like these are the things that make us human, and now we're using AI to basically extend the creative process of doing so, especially when it comes to people that don't really practice art as an actual skill, like drawing and stuff like that. Anybody can do this, but for like work related, or you want to make a hobby or career out of it, right, that takes a lot of time and dedication that a lot of people aren't interested in doing. And then there's the other half of people that are going to be using AI and stuff like that to, one, instantly get art, because it takes artists time to make art. Like, it really does take time for this stuff to be created. And on top of that, people are going to use it because it's free and they don't want to spend money for art. So I'm down to check out any videos that are touching those topics specifically. My opinion of AI and AI art has been evolving as time has been progressing, but I'll save that conversation for that video reaction.
I'm not going to essay-style present a bunch of points to you today, as shocking as that may be to hear. I'm just here to talk honestly about how I feel about the new Ghibli AI art trend, because I feel a lot about it. These are 100% just my opinions, and I'm not really trying to present an attempt at an objective stance on the topic. I just think it's an important discussion to be had, mostly because of how completely harmless a lot of well-meaning people think it is, and how harmless it really isn't, at least in my opinion. But I should probably provide some actual context first, because while I'm assuming that most of you already know what's going on and have seen the influx of Ghibli-style AI art almost everywhere online recently, I know some of you also probably haven't, and I envy you for that. To summarize quickly, the most recent ChatGPT update has come with some very significant improvements, one of which was very quickly discovered: the ability to generate images in the Studio Ghibli art style with shocking accuracy. It almost immediately went viral, with people everywhere flooding online spaces with Ghibli-style profile pictures, Ghibli-style memes, Ghibli-style historical moments, even gross Ghibli-style political propaganda. It's so popular and highly utilized that OpenAI had to impose a temporary limit on its use due to the pressure it was putting on their GPUs. And it went so viral because it's really, really good. I mean, it still has its usual flaws, with some super messed up anatomy and backgrounds full of logical errors and lines that don't match up. But for the most part, it's shockingly effective at replicating the elements of the Ghibli style that have come to define it so recognizably over the years. It looks good. And because the style itself is so beloved, it's appealing to more than the usual crowd. This isn't just pro AI tech bros who want art but don't want to learn how to make it, and couldn't give less of a shit
See what I'm talking about?
Art or artists. It's not just people who are ignorant to why generative AI is a problem, using it because they don't know enough about the issues surrounding it to see why they probably shouldn't. It's now even reaching people who aren't ignorant to those issues, and aren't tech bros who don't care about them. People who sincerely see the downsides and consider this to be enough of an upside to be worth it. Everyone loves Ghibli art, so everyone loves this trend. And that's what it's about. The style, not the fact that it's generative AI. Liking this trend is not inherently even affiliated with being pro or anti-AI. It's just about liking Ghibli art, and the fact that it is AI generated is nothing more than an afterthought for most. Which means that they're too blinded by the appeal and sentimentality and nostalgia to associate the creation with the tool that's creating it. And that's what scares me. This trend isn't based on—
No, that's big, because that will legitimately lead to humanity's downfall. But because we're so focused on the trend, or, oh, this reminds me of this, or nostalgia, bro, oh, we could easily end up falling into a slippery slope. So this is, honestly, this is bigger than it looks. This is legitimately something, as humans, we should be paying attention to, just because it's Ghibli art. And it's like, oh, I get a profile picture. It's a lot deeper, man, especially if you know what the Illuminati is.
On the devaluation of art, or the glorification of AI, like most other generative AI issues I've covered on the channel have been. At least not entirely. AI has just become so normalized that the trend exists independent from its use, rendering the harm done by its use irrelevant. And that's why I feel like I have to talk about it.
I think it's still relevant.
That harm doesn't go away just because people aren't seeing it. Even if people intend this to be a tribute to a style they love, or they insert themselves into a fictional world they love, a display of appreciation and admiration for art. Even if it's not intended to devalue the art style it's replicating, it is. Like I said, I've already discussed at length why I believe generative AI devalues art by way of its very existence. It was trained on the work of unconsenting artists to create images designed to replace them, and is peddled as this magical tool that lets anyone make art, while really just being an alternative to needing to make art at all. Again, feel free to consult my other videos in the playlist in the iCard above if you want to hear more about my views on that. But the point is, this trend isn't immune to those same—
What makes art uncanny valley? Maybe that's the video I'm looking for.
Criticisms just because it's mimicking a style we love. It's not innocent just because Ghibli is. It's built on the same stolen work without the artist's permission, and using it is essentially the same as saying, I love Miyazaki's style so much that I'm going to devalue the decades he spent developing it by reducing it to automation rather than art. It commodifies it. It cheapens it. It makes it into a gimmick.
Here she goes. She's cooking, bro.
To creating the style that it's imitating. People only want to imitate it in the first place because of how effectively,
because of what it is,
and uniquely he did so. And imitating it through art is one thing. Artists paying homage to artists via imitation is neither unprecedented nor malicious. But imitating it by automating it is not paying homage. You're not learning and replicating the techniques that Miyazaki used like an artist would. You're not sitting down and poring over all of his work to understand what stylistic elements make it so lovable and valuable and beautiful and unique, well enough to include them in your own work. You're not spending time and effort studying the art of an artist you admire so that you can create something of your own out of love for their art. You're reducing their art to a filter for your photos with no effort or respect required. Reducing its value to what it can do for you. To a passing fad that you can enjoy without the artist who made you love it even being needed, much less respected.
Bro, she is cooking, bro.
At least artists imitating artists.
Yo, let's go.
So, and they do that primarily out of sincere respect and admiration for the style that they're imitating. This is not that, and it's not motivated by the same thing either. It's the difference between learning a language and Google translating. One shows a deep appreciation for the language and the culture, enough so to motivate you to want to spend the years it takes to learn it doing so, because it's worth that effort. The other takes 2 seconds, does it poorly, loses the nuance and beauty of the source language, and shows that you only care about it enough to use it, not understand it. And that is not paying tribute. And while we're on that—
Yes. Yo, Celestia is cooking, bro. Yo, she always like this, bro. She is cooking crazy, bro. Bro, the kitchen is on fire, bro.
Topic of human artists doing the same thing as AI, let me take a brief moment of your time to mention one of the arguments here that pisses me off the most. That ChatGPT is just taking inspiration from Studio Ghibli in the same way that any human artist would.
Stop. If anybody's saying that, bro, you're full of shit, bro. Stop. It's AI. AI is like a gun. Guns don't kill people. People with guns kill people, okay? It's the same thing. The bot just exists and you're using the bot for your own advantage in life. Stop. No, stop. You can't pull the wool over KhunShawn's eyes. It's not happening.
influenced by reality and existing art, that means it's not guilty of anything that we aren't. Because do you think we don't know the difference between influence and imitation? Toddlers understand the significance of the role that intention plays in defining an action. They can tell the difference between hitting someone on purpose and hitting someone by accident. Why in the ever-loving fuck can't these people understand that there's a difference between being subconsciously influenced by the art that we love and deliberately trying to copy it? Literal children can. It baffles me, and I am so tired.
Common sense is not common.
If your goal is to create your own original art, it will have qualities that are reminiscent of all of the art that you've seen throughout your life. Because that's the only way we can make it. We're defined by our experiences, and the things that we create are too. That needs to effectively be viewed as an occupational hazard of creativity, and sometimes as much of an asset as it is a weakness. But if your goal instead is to one-to-one copy the work of another artist with no intention of adding anything of your own to the final piece,
plagiarism.
That is not the same as being inspired. That's plagiarism.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it here, bro. Celestia is cooking. Okay, I'll continue this later. I actually gotta go downstairs. I gotta go hang out with a friend of mine. So I'll be back and we'll put the videos together. I'll edit it. And yeah, man, this is amazing. Thank you, Rose, again for sending this to me. I'll be back in a couple hours. All right, I'm back. Let's go ahead and continue this, bro. Celestia is cooking, bro.
Anything of your own to the final piece, that is not the same as being inspired. That's plagiarism. Style theft has been a long debated topic in the art community that's never stopped being contentious, with artists arguing back and forth for years over what the line is between inspiration and imitation, mostly because we can't objectively define what that line is, or how many elements of a style need to be copied for it to be theft. But the one thing most people have always agreed on is intent. If the artist intends to directly copy the style of the artist whose work they're consulting, that's style theft. If the artist intends to put their own spin on it, it isn't. Or at least there's a basis upon which it can be argued that it isn't. And this is literally the exact same thing. If a human artist were somehow drawing Ghibli-style knockoffs for 2 cents a piece at an insanely rapid pace, we would condemn that artist. We would call them out for plagiarism in a second, and condemn the fact that their work thoroughly lacks any creativity and serves no purpose but to undercut the value of what it's imitating. We would blacklist that asshole and advise everyone else to do the same. We're not holding AI to standards that we wouldn't hold a human to, and it's doing the same thing that doesn't meet those standards.
And it's kind of hard because, like I said, AI is literally like a weapon, or it could be a friend, or it could be a therapist, it could be your teacher, it could be your babysitter, it could be your guide to life. AI isn't one thing. AI is all things, and it encompasses many things, and it has the ability to do whatever you want it to do. Whatever intent you put onto this being that is AI will create whatever it is that you request that this thing creates. You can't hold AI to a standard because AI in itself is not sentient. It does not have the ability to be held to standards. It's only the people that use AI in a way we as a species would deem not sufficient or not responsible or not ethical. We can't really say moral because morality is subjective. Same thing with ethics. These things are all subjective. But that is the thing when it comes to society, right? We live in society. We live in a world where all human beings collectively will say what we allow or what we don't allow. But when you have a thing that can basically be whatever it is that anybody wants it to be, and we all have access to this thing, you can't really enforce anything, because to enforce anything onto AI, you'd have to have collective societal response to say, yes, we all agree with this, when in all actuality nobody agrees with almost anything. Yeah, that's what makes it so tricky.
We're calling out the same thing we would call out from people. Generative AI copying the Ghibli style is not reinterpreting it creatively in a way that respects the style and also adds something unique and new to its execution. It's imitating it with the intention of producing as close to an exact copy of it as it can deliver, not meant as a tribute to it, but as an alternative to it. The same people that are using AI-generated Ghibli-style profile pictures probably would have paid Miyazaki thousands to create them if they could afford to, and this algorithm trained on his work that couldn't exist without it serves as an alternative to that. Like, I'm sorry, what? You think you're entitled to that just because you want it? He devoted his life to creating a style that's been that impactful to you, and he earned the right to be paid to draw in it if people want that art. It's his, and you are paying for him to give it to you. You should not just be able to get it without doing so. That's literally just how a trade-based economy works. You can compete with Walmart by opening your own grocery store. You can't compete with Walmart by opening a grocery store called Waltmart with identical branding and stock for 1/10 of the price. Well,
you can if you go to China.
You can, but people will rightfully call you out for your fundamental shittiness and litigate your illegal actions because they're illegal.
Nah, not many people would do so because a lot of people don't care as long as the product is sufficient. If that wasn't the case, you could literally like look at the entire world that is China. Look at the entire world that is these other places around the earth that just like all life is pattern anyway. We all have pattern recognition, and depending on how good your pattern recognition is, depends on how well you will do in this world. And for a lot of people, they could just control C, control V, and everybody else won't care as long as the product is good. So I don't agree with this. I would love for us to live in a world where we could say, hey, that you're copying somebody else, you shouldn't do that. And then the other person says, okay, I'll stop copying. That's not the world that we live in, unfortunately. And to try and enforce such a thing, I mean, good luck. Good luck, like for sure. Legitimately, like picket, protest. I agree with these things. I think you should do these things. If you see something wrong with the world, you should voice your concerns for that because we all share this earth together anyways. But to say that that's what's going on now, it's not true. At least there hasn't been any big substantial evidence to show that as human beings we all can say and point at something and say it's wrong and we enact change. Like sometimes that has happened in history. It doesn't always work, especially with a lot of big corporations that decide it doesn't matter because they have enough money to just wait out the protest anyway. Sad world we live in, man. Sad world.
Art is only different in this instance because of how relentlessly society has devalued it as unnecessary, while simultaneously relying on it to get through each day and expecting the ability to enjoy it. And Miyazaki himself has called this out. In 2016, he watched an AI-generated demonstration of how human animation could be replaced by automation, to which he replied that he would never wish to incorporate this technology into his work at all, following with, I strongly feel that this is an insult to life itself, only to conclude by saying, I feel like we're nearing the end of times. We humans are losing faith in ourselves.
Yes.
Now, in fairness, what most people are leaving out of this coverage is that he's not talking about generative AI. He's not talking about image generators or ChatGPT. Neither existed when he said what he said. And to provide relevant context, he's taken similarly hostile stances towards the anime industry as a whole for simplifying too much of animation to the point that it takes the realistic humanity out of characters' movements. So it's entirely possible that his opinion is based more on the fact that he values authenticity and hard work more than corner-cutting and just okay results, than a distaste for AI itself.
I mean, bro, you could go even deeper. Miyazaki is basically saying, what's the point of living if you just get everything you want easily without any effort and you don't put any soul into whatever it is that you're creating? What's the point?
To my knowledge, based on recent research, he hasn't expressed a stance on AI-generated images as of scripting this, and his disdain towards AI in the past was directed at an entirely different kind of technology. But the fundamental basis for it is the same. It's still something that automates and cheapens something that a human is meant to create themselves, and it's still something that delivers a subpar result because that humanity is missing. I can only speculate as to whether or not he applies that mentality to generative AI based on the 2016 statement, but I do think it's incredibly likely, which makes the people ripping it off with cheap AI-generated copies claiming to be doing so in his honor even more comedically ridiculous. He himself has decried the automation of human creativity, and they're claiming that their use of that automation is a compliment to him. I understand that many of them don't understand the nuance of the issue and do so out of ignorance rather than disrespect.
Absolutely true.
But it is still disrespect nonetheless. You don't eat a burger cooked by Gordon Ramsay and expect him to be flattered when you say, wow, that was so good that it inspired me to go get McDonald's. And I don't think the people that genuinely love his style and therefore this trend realize that or understand that it's the same thing. And I don't mean to call them out for participating in its popularization as if they actually mean harm by it. It's part of the reason I wanted to talk about this. I want to explain why it's a problem and not just yell at people who don't see the harm in it. And I honestly think in this instance, at least some of those people might actually be willing to listen and hear artists out on this, because they're not all pro-AI. Many are just neutral towards it and pro-Ghibli. I don't agree with nor condone people shitting on anyone Ghiblifying their profile pictures with AI if they don't see what's wrong with it. I think we should be explaining why they shouldn't, because I sincerely don't think a lot of them know, and this could be an opportunity to change that. But to call any of this an opportunity
to educate is the only thing you can do. You can say, hey, this is a problem, why is this a problem, and you try and educate. But you can lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink it.
is really just far too generous. There's opportunity for change to be found in it, but more than anything, this whole thing is just an insult to not just artists, but art as a whole. And as heartbreaking as it is on an emotional and ethical level, it's also fucking terrifying on a technical level, because it's really just one example of a much bigger problem. Today it's the Ghibli style. Tomorrow it could be anything, because it's exceptionally clear based on this trend that the improvements made by ChatGPT's newest update enable it to copy art style as a whole with more accuracy than ever before. It's always been able to imitate styles on a more general scale, like anime or realism or surrealism and so on, and it's always aimed to be able to imitate the individual styles of specific artists too. But up until now, it didn't really do a great job of that. It struggled a lot to maintain consistency when generating images intended to look like one artist's style in particular, largely because it ostensibly wasn't able to pinpoint what stylistic elements were most important and recognizable when it came to defining the style, and subsequently couldn't replicate the right ones in its output. This was also, indirectly, the defense made by people arguing that artists have no legal basis to claim that their work was plagiarized by AI. If it isn't stealing either their style or their work directly and individually, then they can't prove that it's plagiarizing them at all, even if it was trained on their art. But this is some very terrifyingly compelling evidence that it can now. It seems to be able to identify all of the most iconic and important elements of an individual artist's style so well that it can replicate and combine them all accurately in its output. And
that's terrifying. That's absolutely terrifying. Every single person in every single human has their livelihood at stake when it comes to anything, because first it takes art, then it takes our culture, it takes our music, it takes everything, because we allowed it to take everything. And where does that leave me and you? It leaves us with nothing if you were going to try and make a career out of anything artistic, because now it can just be Control C, Control V from people that already have more than everybody else.
So easily that thousands of people were able to get Ghibli-style images of a quality that they were pleased enough with to share with more consistency and reliability than we've ever seen before. We were already seeing individual artists being targeted by tech bros determined to make image generators trained on their style specifically, so as to essentially get free commissions from them. But those generators were flawed and sloppy. This makes it abundantly clear that that's changing, and the consequences of that genuinely keep me up at night. No artist is safe from this anymore, and all of our livelihoods are more threatened now than they've ever been. Which, absolutely, by the way, is a valid and reasonable thing to be concerned about. Yes, the number of AI defenders that I've heard shit on artists for That's just crazy. Being anti-AI because they don't want to lose their jobs, I swear to God, first of all, people can care about more than one thing. The fact that we're worried about our jobs doesn't exclude us from being able to also worry about the ethical and environmental impact of the technology, nor does it diminish how much we do. And second of all, yeah, of course we're worried about our jobs. Our points aren't undermined by the fact that our motivation for making them is partially due to a desire to not lose our livelihoods.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. If you even think about it, if you're just gonna have some compassion, right? Say you want to create something. Say you want to be a streamer, right? You want to get a banner and you want to get the toggles and stuff and all these other things. You go to an artist and you say, "Can you create these for me?" because you enjoy their art. And then you see the price tag and you're like, "Wow, that's so insane." And then you go get some AI to say, "Hey, copy that style," and you get it for free. Sure, you got it for free. What if everybody else does that? And now that artist that everybody loved their art for, it's now stolen. And what is art? Art is intrinsic to that human being, the person that went in to make that art. That is their product. That comes from their mind. That comes from their ideas, because ideas cannot just be replicated. Every single human being has the ability to create ideas, but it's until you actually start putting that into the world where people can steal it. So now we live in a world where people can't have their ideas come out because somebody else is just going to take that idea and make money from it. And that's always been the case, right? I'm not saying this is anything new, but this is something that can happen to every single human being now. Every human being. That means including you, the guy stealing the art, the guy replicating through AI, what you're replicating and stealing, the stuff that you're creating with that, because you might be taking that as an asset to create your own thing. The thing that you're creating can also be stolen by somebody else. We're creating a dog-eat-dog world, and there's no winners in that. It's only death and destruction. Prepare. I hope you guys have been studying martial arts.
Anyone would be scared of automation replacing their careers, and anyone would be right to be. I sincerely don't understand how people use "artists just don't want to be replaced" as a criticism here.
That's not even a criticism.
Yes, obviously. Does anyone want to be replaced? AI is threatening more jobs and fields of work every day, and everyone is eventually going to be at risk of being replaced by it if it keeps going the way it is without regulation or resistance. They're going to need to start saying, ugh, humans just don't want to be replaced at this point, because that's the direction we're going in. And if they're genuinely arguing that we should all sincerely be fine with that and embrace our own redundancy in favor of convenience, I truly have nothing left to offer them but pity. I don't know. This whole situation has just left me so tired, disappointed, and just sad. I'm sad. And I hope, if nothing else, this rambling mess of a video was able to explain why.
It's a great video.
I want people to understand. I want people to see why this cool, fun, new trend isn't the harmless thing that everyone seems to think it is.
Slope.
And why we should be sad about this. Why we shouldn't just accept it, much less endorse and celebrate it. But that's all from me, for now. God knows I'll be back and rambling about another art disaster that rips my soul out of my body within, like, a week. Regardless, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video, disheartening as it may have been. Special thank you as always to channel members Joseph Solomon, TC Pratt, Zelda Deverak42, Haruki Saluzzo, King Good James, CB Lil Thing, Art of Amethyst Fable, Extinction Animation, Indy the Hedgehog, Kai the Memer, Jazz.
Bro's name is Extinction Animation.
And Mad Girls Arts, as well as patrons Batman, Kyle Lowe, Lee Swanson, Cora Fear, Jamisha Walker, Alengshi, Kim Yen, Crazy Asar, Gentong, Grace Nick Xavier, Blah Mage, TC Pratt, Finn, Celine Merriman, Aldrichia, The Stray Dog, Ulura, Greg Noble, Decagon, Jenny Chan, Cat Bus, Mac, Lucy Yamajiki, Selena Beebe, Pride Day, Totally Shogun, Insomniac Sleep Schedule, Ling Tang Wang, Marie Greer, Potato, Jazz, Voidwalker, Latte Tabby, and Christian Cook, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. Absolutely. This was an amazing video. Shout out to Rose again for sending this to me. Yeah, 100%. We do, as a species, need to, unfortunately, put more limitations on technology. Unfortunately, because I am all for technology integration, right? We integrate ourselves with technology. We integrate ourselves with AI. But at a rapid pace, that's going to lead to chaos. The more innovation we create with technology, before people can actually understand it and evaluate how it will affect them in their life, they will go mad. And next thing you know, you will be having people in the street being very, very violent. I wouldn't wish this to happen, but this is a trend when it comes to just humanity, when it comes to every single life, that anything that's ever existed. When it comes to humans, there's a rise. Technology happens, right? We created the wheel and all this, and then something goes crazy through technology, and then there's a collapse. People start losing jobs, and then people start hurting one another, and then something else comes back, and then it happens over and over again. Obviously, we're in the middle of the collapse. It's only the beginning, because people aren't actually out dying. Well, some people are being killed, but not to the mass crazy level as you would see during like an extinction level event. And the thing is, we're trying to keep that event from happening. So yes, we would definitely need to put a little more regulation on the technology so people can actually understand and catch up. Because I know there's a lot of sentiment of adapt or die, but the people that aren't adapting aren't gonna just die. They're gonna start killing before they just die. You know what I'm saying? And they might just kill you. So for 100% safety wise, we should start putting a little bit more limitations. And not only that, we should also be educating people, because I know other people that, you know, they're in crypto or they're in NFTs and blase, like, oh, just learn it, just learn it. It's not easy to just go to a farmer and say, hey, this is the new way we're going to have currency. And then you should just learn like that. You legitimately have to educate, just like you had to be educated how to read a book. We all have to become educated with technology for us to integrate with technology, for people to actually live their lives with this new accommodation that's been added into our entire species. This affects all of us. This affects every single human being that's walking the earth. Not all of us have the ability to sit and learn how to use technology. Some people get a new technology, they get a new toy, and they can master it like this. Other people, it takes a couple days, and other people, they pick it up and then they just put it down because they're like, this isn't for me. We need to have an ability to educate the people that says this isn't for me, because even if it isn't for them, it's legitimately going to be in their life. That's all I have to say. This was a great video, man. I hope you guys enjoyed the reaction. This was absolutely amazing. Duchess Celestia, amazing channel, amazing commentary, and thank you guys for watching. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed. Leave a comment what your favorite part is, and I'd love to hear your opinions down below because communication is key. This is just my perspective. Share yours with us in the comments below. It's your boy KhunShawn, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.